Welcome back to Live Without Limits. My name is Michael Elsner, and today's guest is someone who's had a front row seat to both the traditional music industry and the online business revolution. That is Mr. Rick Barker. Now, Rick managed Taylor Swift and helped turn her into a global icon. But here's what actually makes this conversation so valuable. He made the same transition that many of us face. He went from trading time for money in the traditional business world to building a scalable online education business that gives him complete freedom. In fact, Rick now teaches artists and entrepreneurs how to build sustainable businesses, and he's become one of the most respected voices in the online education space. In today's conversation, we're going to dive deep into the mindset shifts that separate successful entrepreneurs from those who stay stuck. Rick is going to share why he believes investing in high-level coaching and masterminds is non-negotiable. We're going to talk about the power of proximity and relationships in business, and why, sadly, most people value money over time. And that's what keeps them broke. So if you've ever wondered whether you should invest into that coaching program or join that mastermind or reach out to that mentor, this conversation will give you the clarity that you need. Rick's insights on building relationships and investing in yourself could literally change the entire trajectory of your life and your business. So let's dive in. You started in 2011, 2012.
Yeah, 12.
What was it that pulled you in? Obviously, you just wrapped up your time with Taylor Swift.
Yep.
Got off the road to focus on raising kids.
Yes.
What is it that pulled you into the online space? How did you even find out about it?
Once I left Taylor, I started consulting major labels. I started consulting independent labels. I started working with individuals. And there was a gentleman at my church, Mike Smith, and Mike said, "Have you ever heard of Jeff Walker?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, Jeff Walker was a radio consultant." He goes, "No, this is a completely different Jeff Walker, pretty similar name." I said, "No, tell me about it." Mike was a manager in the Christian music space, and he had created an online course helping other managers. He said, "You should look in to Jeff, because what you're doing right now for everyone, you could do it and be able to help more people if you learned how to take your 30 years of knowledge and experience and all these lunches and coffees and pick your brain sessions that people were doing." He said, "If you could learn how to put it online, you would be able to have massive impact for more people." So I went and I Google searched Jeff Walker and found a link, and I went and I watched his first presentation. And at this time, the way I used to do things is I was working for other people during the day. So at night I would sit in the hot tub, have a cigar, lift up my computer, and I started watching people like Jeff Walker. And after I watched the first video, I was upset because there wasn't an offer. And I was ready to buy. I heard what he had to say. I loved what he had to do. I emailed his support and I said, "Listen, by the way, I think Jeff forgot to put a link to where I could buy whatever it is that he's going to sell." I said, "As a matter of fact, he never even told me what he was going to sell, but I like what he has to say." And they thanked me for my feedback. And the next day, the second video came and I watched it again.
Oh, there you go.
And once again, no offer.
PLC series.
So this time I'm pissed because I'm like, he's saying everything that I want, but he's not giving me a way to get it. And I went and I Google searched him again, and this guy by the name of Brendan Burchard showed up. So I went and I looked at Brendan's stuff. So I sat there the next night with a cigar. I watched the first video that Brendan sent, and son of a bitch, he wasn't giving me the chance to purchase either. And I didn't realize that I was caught in a product launch and that the offer doesn't come until the fourth day.
You were in the PLC. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what is this? Because I wanted it and I wanted it now. So ultimately I was like, screw you, Jeff Walker. I'm going to buy Brendan's thing because maybe Brendan will offer it sooner. So I ended up picking up the Experts Academy from Brendan Burchard. I then ended up picking up Jeff Walker's product launch formula, and they offered these live events. And then I went to Jeff's live event and I went to one of Brendan's. I ended up buying 2 courses from Brendan at the time, but they all offered these live events. And I said, I can only go to 2 live events. So I went to Jeff Walker's first, then I went to Brendan's, and then I made my first offer and I was hooked. I saw I could have impact on thousands of people versus just the individuals that I was working with one at a time. And coming from music, I know they write a song once, they
Yep.
record an album once, and those products live forever. And I'm like, wow, I can create my own singles, I can create my own albums, and maybe some people will pay me. And when I saw what they paid and how fast they paid
Mhm.
and how bad they wanted it, from that day forward, that's where my sole focus was.
It really is quite addicting, isn't it?
It is. And it's also addicting to see how fast money started coming
Oh
in.
my gosh, dude.
And when you can solve someone else's problems and they're willing to pay you for it. And as you know, I was reaching out to the quote unquote starving artists, the people that were the
Mhm.
most broke. But I saw that if you could solve their problem, they were going to be willing to pay for it. So I just then wanted to find out, what other problems do you have? Sync licensing was one of
Yeah.
them. And I'm like, hey, I don't have to be the expert in everything. I can go find other people who also have products, so I can build a relationship with my audience, build that
Yeah.
trust with my audience, and then offer them solutions to other problems that they have. And that's when I learned that, wow, I don't always have to create everything, but if I can make offers, I can make money.
Yeah, affiliate marketing, then at that point, the partnerships and the joint ventures and stuff, so powerful. I mean, that's how I built
Very.
my business initially. It was just all on, joint ventures. And, for me at that time, I didn't want to go the route of running ads. And I remember when I first started learning about this space, it was during a conversation with Bill O'Hanlon. The first thing he said to me is, he said, you should do an online course. And my response to him was, oh, there's no way I'm going to do that. And he said, why? And I said, those are those douchebags on
Right.
Facebook who like show you the Lamborghinis in their garage. Like I had just such a nasty, taste in my mouth from it. Um, the way that it was being presented. This is 2017. And then I remember I was thinking of one particular individual as I said that, and then Bill responded. He goes, "Not everyone is like," and then he named the person. So he
Exactly.
obviously knew who I was thinking of,
Yep.
and thought that was actually quite humorous. But from inception to put the course together, from conceiving that idea and putting it together to when you launched, how long of a time span was that for you?
It wasn't long because these events that were taking place were happening at the end of the year. They were right around October or
Mm-hmm.
November. And all I kept hearing at Jeff Walker's was just launch, just launch. I come from a coaching background. So when I find people that are smarter than me that are having success, I just do whatever it is that they say. And when I launched my first product, it took me about probably 4 to 5 weeks to get everything created. And then it was time to launch. This was going to be about Christmas time. I'm like, no one's going to spend any money during Christmas time. So I did these videos and they were terrible, Michael. I mean, it was, you could tell I was reading,
Uh-huh.
you could tell that I was saying words that weren't me.
We've all been there. Yeah.
I was doing exactly what I was told to do, but I also did not want to be one of those guys. So here I am telling people, be yourself, do this. And here I was doing the exact opposite. And but I did what I was told. I launched the product. I put it out there. We opened up the cart and I made like $60,000
Uh-huh.
in like 24 hours.
Mhm.
Now, there were many years in my life I didn't make
Uh-huh.
$60,000. And I'm like, holy crap. But something wasn't sitting right with me.
Yeah.
And I reached out to my people. I said, listen, I said, they're congratulating me. Oh my God, this is amazing. You're going to do so well. And I said, yeah, but I feel like crap. I feel like I'm misleading people
And authentic.
and I'm using words that weren't me. So I said, I want to pull it and I want to change the first video. And they're like, we recommend that you don't do that. I said, this is my business. This is my name on it. So I went back and I said, listen, if you've had a chance to watch the first video, right below this video, if you want to laugh your ass off, go watch it. I'm completely uncomfortable. I said, but what I did was I went against what it is that I teach. I said, I know this is the best course because I put my heart and soul into it. I know that this information isn't available anywhere else. And that's why I want you to take a look at it because I know that it can serve you. And that vulnerability and
Mhm.
authenticity, I ended up tripling what I did that first week, the second week.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, from now on, I'll take the structure, but it's always going to be me.
Yeah.
I'm a bullet point guy. I'm a conversation guy. I'm not read a script guy. And you could
Yeah.
tell that I was so out of my element and it was so awkward to me. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. And at that point, I learned a very valuable lesson that if you just expose yourself to your audience, vulnerability is the new credibility.
Yeah.
Because we live in a world where everyone's trying to be perfect. And I'm like, this is as good as it gets, folks. You know, there was one, actually, this plaque that's right behind me. One time I had a teleprompter on a laptop up on a shelf. And of course, they said, you got to use the Taylor Swift background. You could see the
The
word
reflection.
scrolling
Yeah.
up behind and the reflection, but nobody cared.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until I brought it up. I'm like, look, you can see it behind me. You
Yeah.
know, it's like I said, I have so much that I want to share with you. I want to make sure I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
So, yes, I've got notes, I've got post-it notes, I've got everything. Just go with what I'm sharing with you and it's like, excuse my awkwardness, but I've got so much stuff that I want to give you. And they applauded me for
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
something else I always did is I always told them at the beginning, I am going to make an offer for the right person. It's the right offer. So don't be shocked when this happens. And some people would email me back and go, where's the link to buy?
Yeah.
Just by you being honest with me and telling me that, because no one else does. And we were all doing the same thing because we were all learning from the same person.
Yep.
And at that point, people are like, yeah, we know there's going to be, no, I'm not going to be an offer, not an offer, not an offer. Here's the offer.
Yeah.
You know, and all of us are using the same words. And I said, I want to take the structure, but I want to do it in my own voice and in my own way.
You know, you said a couple of things that really resonate with me, because I remember when I did my first launch, it was actually before I met you. I followed the Jeff Walker formula and you know, the four PLCs, 3 PLCs in the final offer video, and it didn't feel right. I just felt so icky saying the things that I was supposed to say, and same thing, it was scripted. I had a teleprompter. I had my buddy come over with this nice camera, and I was able to read it off the teleprompter. And afterwards, I was just kind of disgusted with myself. This is early 2018. And I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again. And I liked some of the process of the PLC series. So I changed it and I kept the first 3 videos, but instead of going to a 4th offer video, I changed that to a masterclass. You get momentum during the 3 videos. Then I'm going to invite you to come join me for a masterclass 2 or 3 days later, where I'm going to almost reteach the same stuff, just a little deeper, right? Condense it, and then go into the pitch. But at that point, I can actually speak authentically. I can take questions. We can open up a discussion. And following a lot of what I learned from you, you know, when you were showing me the webinar formula of, you know, you just stay on and answer people's questions until everyone's either bought or everyone disappears.
That's right.
You know, and that was how I started doing my launches after that, shortly after I met you in the fall of 2018. And that first one, you know, we did just under 6 figures in 7 days. And then of course the next one where we
Crushed.
over 6 figures, crushed it. And then the next one, and I remember you were a big affiliate of mine. And I remember one time you were like, yeah, I paid off 3 cars with my affiliate commissions.
And bought my daughter's car and paid off the other 2.
Yeah. I mean, that was that's the power of partnerships.
Well, it is. And I think too, is it's like when you find someone you trust and you've worked so hard to build up the trust with your audience, you get very territorial on who you share them with. And that was it with me, because people had learned, okay, Rick's building this list. They trust him. I was usually either, you know, top 3 on almost every affiliate thing that I ever did, but I was very selective on who I worked with and who I introduced them to. And something that you and I both learned early on is we can't save everyone. And we both tried. We both thought that, okay, if it worked for us, it will work with someone else. But what people don't understand, kind of goes back to what you said earlier, is you and I approach it from a completely different mindset. That's why I shifted all of my teachings to where the first thing is all about mindset. It's like really making sure that they understand that there's work, that there are no shortcuts. And a lot of the words that my mentors were wanting me to use, I couldn't use because, yes, I worked for Taylor Swift and they're wanting me, and you'll be the next Taylor Swift. And I said, no, they won't. They're like, but no, I don't need to say that, because then everyone starts expecting the results that she got. You got a Super Bowl commercial. You got a theme song. Not everyone who comes into your world, even though you're teaching them the same strategies, they can't base it off what you've achieved. Just this is what's available. And people are like, well, Michael, I need to know who you sent the thing to the Super Bowl so that I can get the Super Bowl. And you're like, wait, my Super Bowl came from a guitar riff this big that fits.
A lot of variables.
There was a lot of different ways that it happened, but you were showing them what was possible.
Yeah.
And that's where I felt that I really wanted to focus more on my psychology and really making them understand that, yes, the options and the availability is there, but it's not going to happen for everyone. And here's what you need to do in order for it to happen.
Well, the success most of the time comes through pushing through failure.
Yes.
And, one of the tough things about coaching online, I feel, is, we leverage the successes that we've had.
Correct.
Right. I spoke at an event one time, I was being interviewed, and the very first question that the interviewer said was, how does one get 2,500 placements? At the time, that was where I was at. And I said, it's just because I got turned down 25,000 times.
That's right.
I got turned down more times than most people would allow themselves to. And, how do I get the Super Bowl commercial? Well, you didn't hear about all the Super Bowl commercials that I didn't get. And it's not really rejection, but there are so many opportunities that you're not 100% right for. And you have to push through them. It's not even pushing through them. It's just kind of like going, well, it is what it is. That wasn't the right fit. There's going to be another fit. It's the difference between abundance and scarcity.
Right. I've never done something just because of what the financial reward might be. I've always done things to say, okay, I'll lead with a servant's mentality. How can I serve people the best way possible? Mm-hmm. That's when I got very heavy involved, even more heavy than I already was, in ads and social media, because it's like I can find people where they are, solve a problem, invite them to a solution to more problems, and make them an offer that's going to solve a good majority of their problems. And all of this can happen while I'm on the golf course. Today I teed off, got up at 6:30, teed off at 7:20. I was back home at 9:20. I answered some emails. I have a project that I'm being coached on, like working on my story. I wrote my story, sent it to my coach. I'll meet with her tomorrow. I have you here at 11 o'clock. Emails are already going out while we're having this conversation. Income is coming in because of systems and processes that I put in place that allow me to live the life I want to live and do the things that I want to do without being hampered. I've got to be at the desk by this time. I have to answer this many calls a day. I have to talk to this many people.
That is the biggest blessing of this particular space.
Yes.
I mean, it really is unbelievable, the freedom that comes with it. But I actually have a question for you related to that now. Sure. We go to a lot of the same events. We're surrounded by a lot of the heavyweights in the coaching sphere, crushing it. They're pulling in tens of millions of dollars a month because it's possible.
Sure.
And
that's what they want.
That's what they want. So my question to you is how do you find that balance between being surrounded by people where it literally is limitless? Like we all know, and I think we've all, I don't know about you. I mean, I have earlier on, I got pulled into the idea of like, I could grow this and I could be making like $20 million a year and it's potentially there. And I started building the whole team and the whole infrastructure to make that happen. I then realized that was not what I wanted. It changed the whole the whole role that I was playing within the business, and it was not a role that I wanted to play. But how did you kind of overcome that challenge, or how did you determine that, okay, this is enough. This is enough. This is what I want. This is fine. I'm very content. It supports my life. and
Yep.
that's where I want to go. What was that journey like for you? Did you ever get caught up in the,
Well,
man,
I'm a
limitless?
big rap fan. People who know me know that.
Mhm.
Money, mo problems. You know, it's like, and I wasn't willing to commit to what it took to have a $10 million a year business
Mhm.
because I didn't want the employees. I didn't want them to be dependent on me. I grew up poor, so I've never made decisions based on money. If I made decisions strictly on money, I would have stayed with Taylor Swift and
Mhm.
I would be a mazillionaire now.
Mhm.
But I chose lifestyle over money early on. So I've never been one of those people that made decisions based on money. I also felt that I don't buy fancy watches. I don't buy fancy cars. I don't need that stuff. It's never been something that excited me. I would rather invest in vacations and experiences
Mhm.
and memories with my family than buying something that I wear on my wrist. I would rather take that money and go to Belize and
Yeah.
spend a week with the families. For each person that I coach, it's like, hey, if you want that, awesome. Here's what it's going to take to get it. Here's the sacrifices that you're going to have to make. I had this conversation with my group coaching clients. I do a group mentorship program twice a year. I take 8 people. It's 5 grand. So $40,000. That $40,000, I can't run my business or support my family strictly on that 40,000. Now I have $25 courses that I sell to thousands of people multiple times a year.
Okay.
That's how I provide for me and my family. What I do on the mentorship program, I told them, I said, thank you guys. You just paid for my mastermind that I'm in this year, which is
Yeah.
$36,000, which is going to allow me to serve more people. And I appreciate that. And they started laughing. I had a guy reach out to me this morning, very funny email that I'll read to you because I know it fits right in with what we're talking about. But this person, he says, how much do you make off your program? Question mark. Are there really contracts to be had in the state of the industry? The world is inundated with former industry folk trying to sell blueprints and strategies. Seems counterintuitive that successful people in music would have to try and sell and launch platforms to make money. Not to be completely cynical, would love to hear if I am wrong. Anytime you have to humor this email is appreciated. So I wrote back to Daniel. I say, I pay out thousands every month to run a business helping educate people who are serious about a career in music. Last I checked, teachers get paid, as do universities. The difference is people who learn from me actually learn from someone in the business. How far have you gotten so far being cynical, as you say, and trying to figure it out on your own? I'll remove you from any future emails as not to waste either of our time. I wish you the best. Best, Rick. Now, I could have argued with this person,
Yeah. Not even worth it.
tried to convince him to
Mm-mm.
invest the $97, but I don't want that person
Yeah.
in my world. I don't want that energy in my group. I realized the most valuable lesson that I ever learned was not all money is the right
No.
money.
It's sad to me that people have to ask that question because the answer is really quite simple. At least for me, I could sit here and write music for the rest of my life in my studio and get it on TV shows. It's a very solitary process. And after you reach a certain point, you're never going, like, you manage the biggest artist in the world. You're never going to eclipse that unless you manage the biggest artist in the universe, which she probably already is.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not going to eclipse that. I'm not going to eclipse anything that I've had. I've had the biggest of everything.
Right.
Super Bowl ads, international commercials, the longest type of placement you can have on a TV show, the best vocal feature. I mean, everything.
Yep.
And I've had placements in my favorite shows and my favorite movie series. So I'm never going to do better than what I already have. I'll just do it more.
Right.
But the thing is that after a while, that doesn't get really exciting because I typically tend to outgrow things when I've accomplished them. And so things then kind of just become redundant. But there's nothing like the feeling of getting an email from someone who went through the program or is in the community or whatever, and they say, hey, I just got my song on this national commercial. We had someone just in our community last Friday. This is
Right.
Wednesday. Last Friday, Thursday or Friday, posted, they just got a national pet food commercial. We have people post weekly in our community the wins that they get. I get more excited about that. I had a placement recently on the Moana 2 trailer. I couldn't care less. I've had placements on trailers for years. It's not a big deal. It's like I expect that, like I expect to eat tonight. I don't share that with people. I share with people, my students who
Right.
got placements. That gets me excited.
Right.
So when people are like, "Why do you do this?" If you're so successful, I do it because it's really freaking fulfilling.
Right.
There's nothing that beats the feeling of helping someone else pursue their passion and achieve their dreams.
But
If I
see,
can take,
that's what success is to you. And that's what I try to tell people. It's like when they say, what type of success? Well, I have a guy that just wanted to be able to get on stage and sing for the first time, and he did it. That's
yeah,
success to him. He doesn't have a lot of followers. This person wanted followers. They're having success. This person wanted to learn how to book shows and tour. They're having success. So because success means something different to everyone, it's not like we all use the same ingredients and at the end we all have a cake,
yeah,
and you could tell who has the best cake by who followed the instructions. That's not what this is. This is if someone wants to learn how to do something and they take what you say and they have success with it, that's what I absolutely love.
if you could go and sit down with yourself back in 2011,
Yep.
knowing what you know now,
Yep.
what would you tell yourself?
I would have bought more advanced coaching earlier
Mm.
instead of always trying to find the cheapest product.
Can I jump in on that one real quick?
Yes.
This is perfect for musicians because I find that there are two types of musicians. There's the musician who's I'm going to do it all. So I'm going to spend years learning how to do everything that I can possibly do. I'm going to play all the instruments. I'm going to sing it. I'm going to write it. I'm going to become the producer. I'm going to become the engineer. I'm going to become the mixer. And of course, we all know that that's going to be a piece of garbage that is not worth listening to. Very rarely will
Very
that
few
actually be
Pharrells.
quality.
There's very few Pharrells. There's very few people
Very few.
who can do it all.
Yes.
Max
Very, very
Martin
few.
can't do it all. Dr. Luke can't do it all. There's very few Bruno Mars, Pharrells,
Correct.
Ryan Tedders of the world.
Right. There are certain tells, right? When a musician will say, like, I don't have any money, that tells me instantly your music is garbage. I already know that. I don't have to listen to it. And it's not a knock on that person personally. It's if you have no money, then you're not investing what you need to create a product that's worthy of generating money. But we do have people who invest heavily into their music. They invest heavily into finding great producers. They invest heavily into great mixers. And while they don't record tons of music through the year, what they produce sounds and is fantastic. They brought in the right people.
Right.
Now, here's the thing that's interesting. You have the mindset to create the greatest product musically, right? So you're going to put all your money into it. But yet I find it interesting that a lot of times, and even us in the entrepreneurial space, we don't go all in our coaching.
Right.
We don't go, or our coaches, we don't go all in our employees. Oftentimes we'll pay, $5 an hour to just some VA in another country to do something simple. But when we actually, I used to do that too.
Mm-hmm. We all have.
We all have. But when I realized, hold on a second. If I've been all in on my music career through my entire life, one of the reasons why I've been successful, got a couple platinum records, I've had a lot of TV placements, it's because I was all in on what I did musically. Gear-wise, everything, I just did it the highest level, and I would go into debt doing it, and then, of course, would pay off that debt from the results of it, right? When it comes to building the business, why do a lot of entrepreneurs do the bare minimum or get the lowest quality employees or VAs, pay them little tiny, tiny sums of money for poor results? For me, I did that when I started until I realized if I've been doing this and this worked for me in music, I have to do this over here in the entrepreneurial space, which means that I have to invest in coaching.
Right.
I mean, dude, just recently I called you up and I said, hey, can I talk to you for an hour? I said, send me a bill. And you said, no, I'm not going to send you a bill. And then I said, no, send me a bill because I'm going to pay you for the hour. Because the difference was, I don't want to just sit and talk to you and get your opinion. I want to hire you as a coach. And I knew that if I paid you as a coach and not just as former neighbor and friend, I'm going to approach that information completely different.
Right.
And what's interesting is we talked on a Tuesday. I listened back to that conversation later that week, and I just let it sit and resonate with me. And by Monday morning, less than a week later, I had the complete answer and complete game plan for the reason why we talked. And the funny thing is that had we just gotten on a call and chatted and I hadn't paid you for coaching, that would have never happened, because I never would have intentionally thought about that conversation as deeply as I did had I not paid for it.
Right. When I stopped thinking like an hourly employee and started thinking like a business owner, I thought about it like this. It's like if I go to a doctor and I say, Doc, here's the problem that I have. And the doctor says, I can solve that problem for you. And it's $10,000. Am I going to be upset if he tells me that he can solve my problem in 15 minutes? Or am I going to say, listen, I'm spending 10,000. You should at least probably take 10 hours,
Yeah.
or 100 hours to do it. Or do I want the cure in 15 minutes?
Yeah.
It's like I go and I pay $40 to get my hair cut, and it takes him 8 minutes.
Yeah.
I pay $40 because it only takes him 8 minutes. Not because I don't think, well, I could go to Supercuts and spend an hour with them and they could do it for $20. No, I pay for his speed. When I go into a program, when people get me on a call and they're selling me something, what they don't realize is, one, I'm already going to buy, or I wouldn't be wasting my time on the phone with them. And you don't have to go through the pony show. Tell me, how do I get the closest to the person? That's the one I want to purchase, because I know proximity is speed and proximity is time, and time is what I appreciate and value more than anything.
Buddy, proximity is opportunity. When I started in my career, I didn't go to the recording studios and try and be like an intern or any of that kind of stuff. I opened up CDs that I had. I moved to Nashville. I opened up CDs. This is 1998, back with the phones that you actually had to hit the buttons on. Post-rotary, pre-cell phone. And I called people. I called the people whose names were in those records. I don't even think I had an email actually at that time yet. I didn't have a computer. I know that much.
Yeah.
But I found their phone numbers and I called them. And a lot of them, weren't interested in letting me come and hang out with them. But a couple of them were. A couple of them did. And I always share that I moved to town on Saturday, November 7th, 1998. I was from New York, so
Didn't know anybody.
Didn't know anyone.
Yep.
And by January 1st, 1999, so within 6 weeks, it was really shorter than that because I went back home for Christmas around probably like the 19th or 20th of December. But that record right there, that one right there, by January of 1999, January 1st, I had already worked on a project that gave me my first double platinum. And within a couple months after that, because I got around the right people, within a couple months after that, I got my second double platinum record for another album I worked on. It literally was probably within like 3 or 4 months after that. And that was how my career went. When I moved to Los Angeles, I contacted composers. Within a couple weeks, I was playing guitar on a TV show. Shortly thereafter that, I was on a big international film, my first soundtrack, and things took off. Proximity is everything.
Yes, it is.
And you either have to bring value, right? You have to come to the table with value. And that value can just be, I started off just as an assistant, even mowing some of their lawns just to help them out.
But it was something they needed.
Exactly.
And that's the difference is it's like there's no shortage of people that want these folks. I had this conversation with a young artist that I work with who is starting to do producing, and he's doing really well, and he's 14, so he wants it all to happen now. And I said, listen, let's talk about your short-term goal. In the next 3 months, what do you want to happen? He said, I know you're going to say this is out of, out of reach. I want to be mentored by Benny Blanco. I said, okay. I said, have you created any Benny Blanco style tracks that Benny can listen to? Because Benny's looking for producers that can help take a workload off of him. I said, all these big producers have young producers that are underneath them that are producing quality work that they can pitch to artists and they can start. He goes, well, no, I want him to teach me how to do that. I said, then you bring no value to Benny Blanco.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for Benny Blanco to bring value to you.
Yeah.
And Benny knows the value that he brings. I said, so why don't we make your 3-month goal to have 10 songs at a quality that someone like Benny Blanco would be interested in? I said, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to Spotify. I want you to find the songs that Benny's produced on, and you're probably going to see 2 or 3 other producers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the guys I want you to reach out to.
Yep.
Those are the guys I want you to seek mentorship from, because now you're closer to proximity of Benny. And one of the people that already have Benny's ear could say, Benny, you've got to meet this kid.
100%.
Called. His work is fantastic. I've been working with him. And Benny's going to say, great, send me a couple of his songs. I would love to hear them.
Yeah.
And then Benny's going to go back to the guy and say, look, he's on to something. Keep working with him on this. Now, he didn't actually get to Benny physically, but he did get his music to Benny by doing it the right way. And I don't want to ever be Rick the Dream Killer, but I'm always trying to have people realistic. I said, why don't you have a track that you could go to BeatStars and type in Benny Blanco style beats and be honest with yourself. Are you as good as that guy?
Yeah.
And if you're not, get as good as that guy. Go see if the biggest guy has a course. You want to be with Ryan Tedder, go buy his masterclass.
Yeah.
And then say, hey, Ryan, I bought your masterclass and this is what I produced learning from you. He's going to go, oh my God, that's great. That's how you get to Ryan Tedder, not, hey, Ryan, will you mentor me? Because
go take my course. I already created my mentorship.
Here's my brain. Here's everything that I would teach you in a mentorship. Show me that you're serious about this business. But I explain to people, there are hundreds of people who have mentored me that I have never met personally, whether it be through a book, whether it be through a podcast that I listen to, whether it be a course that I purchased, whether it be sat in an audience where we're speaking on stage. I have been mentored by some of the best in the world, and they wouldn't know me if I was riding in the car with them. Yeah. There's a difference because I know what a good mentor does. Now, if I want them to personally mentor me, I reach out and say, do you offer a coaching program? Can I buy an hour of your time? Yeah. Is there some way that I can pay you to spend time with you?
I have one more question for you, and this has been awesome, Rick. Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful that you're chatting with me
about
this.
To be a part of this conversation.
I would love to know your perspective, but I find that a lot of individuals, while they may not realize it, they value money more than time. They value holding on to this little number in their bank account on the app on their phone over saving years of their life, of struggle, of pain, of frustration. You were just talking about going to events and going to seminars. And as you were talking about that, I thought to myself, yeah, I've been actually to a lot of the seminars that you've been to. We've hung out at a lot of them. And they're not cheap.
Nope.
They're not cheap to attend. Not only just for the ticket, but then you got the flight, you got the hotel, you got, all the food for 3 or 4 days, and maybe a rental car or anything like that. It turns into multiple thousands of dollars for an event like that. I look forward to them because not only are they incredibly informative and motivating, but even more importantly, I look forward to them because of what happens outside of the main seminar room with people like, I remember, you and I were having breakfast and Daryl Eves came and sat down and joined us. Daryl Eves wrote the YouTube formula, produced a great TV show called The Chosen, right? Never would have been able to chat with him had it not been sitting with you at breakfast. But I look forward to those events because of everything that happens outside of that. The amount of time that I have saved in my life by going to I have no idea what it would be, years, but it's not even the time. It's elevating to higher levels of partnerships or through partnerships. And of course, through those partnerships, incredible amount of income that has come as a result of that. I would love your perspective of how people get confused valuing money over time.
Oh, I think, and I haven't always been like this. I mean, I was very prideful that I built my first WordPress website and it was awesome. And it took me about 30 hours. And then I had a kid who came to me and said, dude, I love your website. I go, oh, awesome. What do you do? He said, I'm a website builder. And I'm like, oh, great. I said, just out of curiosity, seeing how you like my website so much, how much would you have charged me to build something like that? And how long would it have taken you? He said, well, for the quality of work that you did, probably about $1,500, and I could have had it done for you in about 7 hours. I'm like, wow. I spent 3 weeks building this website. I probably put 30 hours into this website, and I charged $300 an hour for my time. And I'm like, holy shit. Does anybody care that I made the website? Does anybody care?
No.
No. And then it was that day that things started being different for me. Going back to your question, and the reason that I think musicians have a problem with this is unfortunately that they've chosen to be in a field where the consumer doesn't have to pay for their product.
100%.
I can go invest $10,000 to go to a conference for a week with everything all in, but I can also write one email and sell a physical product that will make me $40,000. Right. So I think because of what they've chose to pursue is they haven't come to the realization yet that the money is in the relationship. And this is just me personally. I don't think there's a music conference that can teach them what they need. I think they need to go to more entrepreneurial
100%.
conferences because the music conferences they're hearing the same thing, the same bullshit. It's like I stopped even speaking at a lot of these because people wanted me on a panel to talk about the Taylor days. And I said, unless you let me on stage to speak for an hour and teach, I'm not coming. One, because I'm leaving my family, I'm leaving my business, I'm paying for my hotels. I need to be able to serve that community. So I think that if they were to spend more time working on mindset and how to tell stories and how to build relationships, it would be much easier. And that's what I try to incorporate in my online webinars that I do. I like them to be able to leave with something they can instantly use. You see, I don't need to go to a conference to get motivated. I'm already a motivated person. I go for proximity. I go for relationship building. I could care less about hearing Tony Robbins speak again, but the type of people that Tony Robbins attracts, those are the people that I want to meet and build relationships. I'll never be able to build a relationship with Tony, but if you've invested your time, your money, and you've made the same sacrifices that I have, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know more about your business. I want to get to know more about, hey, what other type of events are you going to? It's funny because I just got back from an event with Bo Eason. He's got a great book called There's No Plan B for Your A Game.
Oh.
And this is story power. This is learning how to tell better stories. I ended up joining his mastermind. And all I thought when I left was, I need to bring Michael as my guest to the event that we have coming up because this is where he needs to be for what it is that he wants to do because there was no rah-rah. Michael doesn't need rah-rah. It was all work. It was all roll up your sleeves. It was all getting down to the business side of things. And knowing you and knowing how you are, you don't need rah-rah. You don't need anybody to tell you how great you are. You don't need an attaboy. You don't need a woo, congratulations, you made 7 figures. You're like, here's how you can take what you're doing right now. Here's how you can tell the right story. And here's how you can have more impact on people. And that's where I'm at today, is that I'm just trying to have as much impact on people as I can. I want the conversation to be better after they've had it with me.
I mean, I think you just summed this all up perfectly in that one of the greatest benefits, aside from the financial aspect and the personal freedom, the time freedom, the financial freedom that we get running online coaching businesses is that just the pursuit of building that business and staying in that business is a pursuit of personal development that you couldn't get that anywhere else. And that's just such a great example of a powerful lesson that goes beyond business into family, life, kids, spouse.
Made me a better human being.
Yeah, that's awesome. Rick, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for having this conversation. I hope everyone watching and listening has gotten a lot of it. I don't know how you couldn't. I mean, my gosh, I'm inspired and motivated, but I'm always inspired and motivated after I chat with you. So thank you so much, Rick.
I appreciate you, Michael.